yes to join the call in a minute. I hope you are not scared of snakes, but don't worry, we'll move away from you very quickly. Right. So I'm going to start with Python. Um, we'll be covering three areas in the. Let me show. Right. We'll be covering three modules. We'll be covering Python, Excel, and Power BI. Now, I know some of you had a questionnaire you filled, which had areas you wanted to cover, and there was R and SQL brought in as well. That we decided that for the purpose of the program, putting all these five in one program will be a bit overwhelming for some of the students. So we decided to split it up. So for now, we are starting with these three, which is Python, Excel, and Power BI. And you see as we go along why we decided to do that. So Python is what we'll start with because Python is probably going to be the most difficult of the three. In fact, when you go through Python, the other two start to seem quite simple compared. The reason being that Python is a programming language, and so it has a whole lot of rules you have to learn and how to actually start using it. So we are taking you through this thing because some people say, oh, you can learn programming on your own. There are a lot of tools out there. It's true, you can, but it takes a while for you to learn enough to start making use of it. And a lot of people quit before they get there. So that's why people like Russett exist, or institutions like Russett exist, to make sure that we help you through that difficult process when things are not quite easy or quite making sense. So that when you eventually get to that stage, you can then say, okay, this is how what you learned in the foundation applies to your actual work in data analysis or coming up with um, visuals for your reports and all those kind of things. So for sections, we have Python syntax, data types and operators, control structures, and the functions and modules. We take Python syntax to be kind of like grammar. In English grammar, there are certain ways you construct sentences. There are certain things that are deemed as correct English and not correct English. That's what we mean by Python syntax, the basic grammar of Python. Because without that, your code will not work and none of the things you try to do will work. So you need to understand what are the basic rules for correct Python. And they say we have basic rules for correct English. Because you have remember it's a language, so you are communicating with a machine the same way you are communicating with another person. If your grammar in English is not quite right, the way people may get confused when you're trying to communicate to them in English is the same way the machine will get confused when you're trying to communicate with using Python. Loops and conditionals is kind of just like a set of conditions that you give for your code to run. And in certain situations where you're like, oh, under this situation, my code should do this. And at a certain situation, my code should do something else. So, for example, you can say, okay, um, there are certain situations where you go to, um, you make a certain bank transaction, and then your bank calls you, and then they're like, "Are you the one making this transaction?" And you are like, "Yes" or "No." Those are conditional. Certain um, conditions have been put in so that if something is or certain rules maybe because certain rules have been put in so that when those rules are broken, certain actions are taken. So condition is all about setting rules and certain responses to those rules. So if this rule is broken, what's the machine supposed to do? If that rule is broken, what's the machine supposed to do? If this rule applies, how does the machine operate? That's what loops and conditions are about. Functions and modules are just basically you building up from what others have already done. So, so imagine writing code. You'll be working with basic building blocks of code. You may get to a point where you ask yourself, are we going to write everything from scratch? No. Thankfully, people have already written a lot of code for us. So instead of us writing everything from scratch, you can borrow what people have already done and then use that for our data analysis and our visuals, visualizations, and all those other things we have to do. We need to understand, okay, what are the rules that that person who wrote the code put in place so that we know how to use it and shorten the amount of time to take us to do our data analysis. All right. And then from there, we'll move on to actually working with data with some of these programs. One of them is called Pandas. We'll get into that and how that works. How to deal with missing data values, how to deal with data types that are maybe different from what we need to do analysis of data. So, for example, we are working with data that is termed as text, but it's actually numbers, or data that is termed as um, no, but it's not actually no. You will get all these bits in your data that you have to clean your work with. Then we'll deal with the visualization where we look at the various programs already existing for visualization. Some of them you can see on your screen, Matplotlib and Seaborn. I use them to make bar charts, histograms, scatter plots, and all kinds of complex visualizations. Then we look at storytelling with data, where we are not just looking at creating visuals, but how those visuals communicate to your stakeholders, to management. Because a lot of the time people are taught how to come up with complex charts and graphs, but they are not taught what is the right chart or the right visual to use for the right report or for the right stakeholders. Some audiences you are dealing with are more technically inclined, they are more sophisticated. So you can use your scatter plots, your box plot, you understand those things. And some to where you are dealing with people who are not really sophisticated. They are managers, but they are very simple. They are using bar charts and pie charts for them because they just want to get the understanding of what you are doing, move along. And there are situations where sometimes bar charts are supposed to be used, and other situations where pie charts are supposed to be used. You don't always use the same visual for every situation. Every visual has the right situation that you have to use. We'll take a look at those ones when we get there. And then we have EDA. EDA is just basically imagine you get access to a database or you get access to a long Excel sheet, just data of any kind. You first need to understand what are the characteristics of the data set. Like if I have a data set or database full of customers, I need to understand things like what's the average age of the customer, what are the spending patterns, what is their background, what nationality are they from, so that I can then begin my analysis of the data. You need to know what are the first steps I take. The first steps I take when I get a bit of data. How do I start to understand what I'm working with before I start to do full blown analysis? That's what we call ED, exploratory data analysis. Exploring understanding what kind of data I'm dealing with. For those who already have some statistics background, they will understand what exploratory there means or deals with. Then statistics and correlation. We are just going to go into a bit of the statistics underlying data analysis with Python and the theory underlying those things. Then from there, we're going to applying those statistics in what we call machine learning. So look at various machine learning models and then how to evaluate what is the right machine learning model to use in the right situation. And then we'll cap it off with a project which all of you will get to choose. So you get to choose a project to apply what you've learned to that project and then see how it works from beginning to end. So by the time you are done, you can say, okay, I've learned Python, I've applied it to a data analysis project. I'll give you another data set. At least I know how to analyze the data, make sense of it, make some visuals from it, and then communicate to other people what are the relevant insights they can get from this data, what decisions they can take as management or as any other stakeholder based on the data that's been analyzed. So that was quite a bit. From here, we'll move to the Excel and Power BI. But I would want to stop first and then see if anybody has some questions based on the stuff I've said. I know I can talk a bit fast at times. So if I was going a bit too fast, if I said some things that you didn't quite hear, you can either type a question in the chat or you can unmute yourself and then ask a question. So I'll give a minute or two for questions before I move on. Okay, right. I will take that silence when there are no questions for now. So I'm going to move right into the Power BI side of things. So, alright, for Power BI, like I said, it's relatively more simple. So, Power BI is used for data analysis as well, but it's known usually for its beautiful visuals. So, some of you may have seen some nice Power BI visuals. In fact, you may have seen someone give some nice presentation, some nice dashboard. That may be the thing that may be like, I like what the person did. I want to do an data analytics because if I can also do some nice graphs and dashboards like this, it will be great. Yeah, but Power BI is not just about the visuals. In fact, the visuals are arguably like 20% of it. The back end is 80% of it. So what I mean by back end is all the work that gets done before you see the visuals. So a lot of us, I believe, are familiar with Excel. We all use Excel for our analysis, or we have seen Excel uh, calculations and formulas being done by other people. So we know that if you want to do some analysis, use Excel. But it gets to a point where Excel just cannot do the job. Like you say, if you are doing data with over 200,000 rows, you want to move from Excel. And some realize that even when it doesn't get there, you've done a few thousand rows, a 10,000, 3,000. Sometimes the Excel file just closes anyhow, like you open it and then just closes. Sometimes it's very slow. So Power BI was designed to deal with bigger data sizes, data sets. And that's where Power BI came from. Using something called Power BI Desktop. Now there's Power BI service, but we won't deal with that so much because you have to get a license for that. But basically, Power BI service is just when you finish your analysis, your dashboards and stuff in Power BI. It's just a platform to share your dashboards for everybody to access and then um, take a look at. So most of the work gets done in Power BI Deck. So Power BI is just a place to share your work after you've done it. So we first have to obviously download and install Power BI. If you check the WhatsApp group, you should see the link to installing Power BI there. Let me make this comment. I guess I forgot to mention this. And for the Python, we're using something called Anaconda. And so it's it's funny that we have Python and Anaconda, two snake related animals, but the Anaconda is what helps the data scientists and data analysts use. It has all the tools we need for um, Python and a lot of the software we're using for data analysis there. So please take some time and then download it either during or after the class, um, so that when we start the sessions in full gear, you have that installed. If you have any issues, you can reach out and then we can help work with that process when the time is right. So please try and install before our next session, which I'll talk about in this class. Before our next session, the Power BI and the Anaconda software. Okay, so back to what I was saying. Yes, you have to install Power BI desktop, and then after that, we look at the interface, how it works. In fact, I can probably I will show you how what Power BI looks like if you've never really seen the. Once it's loading for some reason, let me move on. When it fully loads, I will go to at least what it looks like. Oh, it's still loading. All right. So for Power BI, we'll look at how to connect to various data sources like Excel, SQL, and stuff like that. So look at various data transformation techniques using Power Query, and then we'll look at what we call data modeling, where we are looking at how to create um, various models for analysis. Because when you're dealing with big data sets, you have to deal with things like primary keys and fact tables and dimension tables. We will explain what these terms is, what are fact tables, what are dimension tables, what are primary keys. If you work with databases, you also come across that kind of language. And then we'll look at how to start working some calculations as well. And we'll continue those calculations with what we call DAX, data analysis expressions. Now imagine the formulas that you work with Excel, but in Power BI. Power BI has its own unique formulas. That's what we call that. And we'll look at the various situations under which we use the various formulas. And then we end with, again, visualization and storytelling. So this is a bit more straightforward. It's just get a base of Power BI, doing some data modeling, using some formulas in Power BI called data analysis expressions, and then coming up with some charts and graphs. And then we'll also end obviously with a capstone project as well for how to visualize Power BI. Okay, now let me see if Power BI has worked. Right. All right. So this is basically the data modeling section where we'll be creating various tables and then formulations amongst those tables for optimization purposes. Because as you've seen, Power BI can sometimes be a little heavy. And if you are not careful about how you design your data models, your dashboards will slow down because of the amount of processing going on in the background. So this part, which is the data modeling section, is where you draw relationships amongst the various aspects of the data. You realize that maybe um, customer sales may be linked to something like the customer table, and then the location may be linked to something like the store table. So if you are, let's say, working in a retail sector, you may have a table for customers, table for orders, table for location, and you realize that all these things are linked to each other. So we are going to draw relationships and then link one thing to the other so that your calculations run faster, and your Power BI dashboards work better. You don't have this lag that we are looking at over here. Then um, this will be an example of a table with various things that are in them, things you have to clean so that you can get the right data. Obviously, you don't want to have things like div in your data because it just affects your ability to do analysis, proper analysis. So that's an example of a table. Then you have this part being your visuals. This is where you get to do all your visuals and fancy dashboards and all that. And then transform data over here is where we go when we want to do some data cleaning. That is what we call the Power Query in the slides that we're just looking at. You should know the second. Okay. So, okay. So this particular data set is tied to a data source I no longer have access to. But no worries, we'll look at it more when we get there. So let me close this and then go to our final part, which is the Excel and the things we'll be covering on the Excel. And then we'll go into the schedule for the whole program and what we have to do preparation for that.
Okay, Mr. Josh, I want to ask a question. So, we are going to learn Power BI, Excel, and then Python.
Yes.
Okay.
No, everybody.
Was that a question?
Yes, yes. That's the question. I wanted to know if you are going to learn all three. And
Yes, we'll learn
then,
all three.
okay.
But I feel like there's something else you're thinking about as you answer that question.
Oh, well, I think that learning all the three is quite interesting. In fact,
Okay.
oh yeah, yeah, it will be very very good.
All right. So the last part is the Excel, and basically we start with the simple bits of Excel, normal calculations like um, the arithmetic operations you're used to, plus, minus, divided by, basic mathematics. Then we'll go to some more sophisticated formulas like the sum, average, mean, max, and count. Because it gets to a point where you realize that instead of you having to add everything one by one, you can use certain formulas that have already been done to do the work for you. Then we get to use logical functions like if, and, or, which are rules just like we have in Python. But the secret that it's not really a secret, but the thing most people don't realize is that Excel in itself is kind of a programming language, the same with Python is. So when you learn Python in come to Excel, you start to see some of the rules I learned in Python, what we call conditionals in Python, is this logical operators if, and, or. Oh, some of the things we learned when we're using plus, minus, addition, subtraction in Python is also in Excel. Some of the things we did with sum, average, mean, max in Python is the same thing also in Excel. These things where we are doing concatenate, where we are joining two bits of text together, also in Python. So you see that as you go from one place to the other, you start to see there's a consistency in all the things. You are seeing something in Python, see it in Power BI, see it in Excel. Because at the end of the day, data is the same, it's just about using different tools to do the job. But the rules are still the same. You see tables in Python, you see tables in Power BI, you see tables in Excel, the same thing. Yeah. So we'll go into some more advanced formulas like VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, index match, sum if, count if, average if, which is based building on these functions of sum, average, and mean, max, and count. Then we'll go into error handling. You also see error handling in Python. Yes. So once again, there are similarities around. And then just like we said for statistical analysis in Python, there are certain things I need to know to be able to utilize those things. Then you see the same thing: the mean, median, mode, standard deviation, regression analysis, correlation analysis. Those things are in Python. The same are also present in um, Excel. And then we learn about data management and data cleaning. So for data management and data cleaning, we learn about them in all three because a lot of the time what happens in data is that a lot of the time is spent data cleaning. So it's very important to understand basic rules of data cleaning, how to deal with data sets that have a lot of missing values, how to deal with data sets that have a lot of outliers, how to deal with data sets that have mismatching data types in there. Look at all those things. And then when to take out certain bits of data for analysis to make more sense, when to um, do something else like maybe find a replace instead of just relating that particular data response. We look at that as well. So I think, yeah, that's it for the things that will cover under the various modules. Um, Now coming to this, one is the schedule, the other is the um, payment. So for the schedule, we realize that most of you, with the exception of one, chose weekends. Now there are two options on the table based on certain constraints. We could do we'll do 2 days a week because like some of you are suspecting what we have to do is go there. And I don't think it's fair to you to try and do once a week. One, because if we are doing that, that will be within 4 hours and that will be very stressful. But two, there needs to be some breathing room so that you get some work, take some time to try and apply it, come back, you go over it, they will give you another maybe exercise, and take some time to apply that one as well, and then we resume the following day. So we are looking at 1 or 2 days. We are looking at Wednesday and Friday as one option, and then Friday and Sunday as another option. Normally, we would have put a poll on the WhatsApp group, but I realized that we don't always get a response we want. So it's better we just get your email at once and then get your feedback. So for those who can hear me, if you can, you can just put one in the chat if you want, if you prefer Wednesdays and Fridays. That's if you can find the chat in the Google Meet platform. One, if you are in favor of Wednesdays and Fridays, and then two, if you're in favor of Fridays and Sundays.
Please, before we do that vote,
Sure.
what time are we meeting? Will it be in
So
the
for
morning or the evening?
so for Wednesday, for the Wednesday or Friday to be in the evenings, 6 to 8. But for the yes, so both of them will be in the evening. Sorry, both of them will be in the evenings. Yeah, 6 to 8.
Okay.
6 to 8.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So
And,
hello.
hello, I want to ask you,
Yes.
um, are we going to get access to some of the slides, the videos?
Yes.
Will the session be recorded so that somebody misses, the person can at their own convenience watch the videos later.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. Because one of the things we've realized is that for you are busy professionals. I get it, and sometimes you listen to something or watch something, you don't quite get the first time. You want to go back and go right again. You want to get the materials itself and then refresh your memory. Sometimes you may get something the first time, but you get busy, and then you want to record that thing that was said in that particular lecture. It is not recorded, it becomes very difficult for you to record what was said. So we record all the sessions and make it available. We'll add it to what we call Google Classroom, where you will see recorded videos, you have access to the slides, and assignments will be posted there as well. Um, So we'll do all that before we start um, the sessions. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is I know Good Friday is, I think, let me see, is it next week? Yes, next week, Friday. So um, I'm hoping we can still have the class that evening. Otherwise, we can always try and make something work. But I'm hoping we can still have the class early. So we'll see how that pans out for next week Friday, Good Friday. Okay, Crystal says Friday and Sunday is going to go for her. I'm yet to hear from Faith and alright. I'm yet to hear from Faith and Mr. Joshua Owen. Whether Fridays and Sundays also works for both of you. Okay. If you can't find the chat, you can always just unmute yourself and speak. Um, so for okay, Crystal.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Please, as I was saying, I suggest Fridays and Sundays, but then
Good
the
Friday won't
Fridays,
work for you.
yes, but the Fridays you can either do it as activities. It depends on us if Fridays are easy for us, but just do it as activities.
Sorry, Crystal, there seems to be some noise in your background. But we can mute now. I think what you are saying can clarify for me.
Oh, okay, but okay, so I was saying the Good Friday. It won't work for
Uh-huh.
some of us who go to church. We have to go to church.
Sure,
Yes,
no
so
problem.
yes, yes, so that's it, it won't work. And then the Fridays, if we choose Fridays and Sundays and a day we can't come, we can just reschedule it in the week and then do it. Yes,
All
that's
right.
what.
Okay. Yeah. So Chris, I saw your message on the Good Friday. I was going to address it after I saw where everybody felt on the Friday, Wednesday and Friday and Sunday option. So Faith is saying that Fridays are very busy days. So she would prefer Wednesdays and Fridays. Um, okay, 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 okay. So sure, we'll get back to we'll try and work something out when it comes to Friday. I'll get a good understanding of the situation and then we'll see how we work that out. All right. So for Good Friday, I was going to do it in the evening, but the people will be going to work in the evening. They will probably shift Good Friday's meet to another day so that we can. make up for that for us. There's no problem with that. So the other thing is the payment for the class, and it should be, yes. So I'm going to share my screen one last time. And you'll see the breakdown for that. Any of you have questions there too, you can always discuss that as well. Alright. So I wanted to make sure of something. Alright, so yes, we normally charge um, 1,000 for each module, so 1,000 for Excel, 1,000 for Power BI, 1,000 for Python. All this making 3,000. 2,500 for all three at once. But we have um, payment options in terms of installments. So if you're able to pay all at once, you get 500 cedis off. If you want to take some time to pay, whether in two installments or three installments, the also options available there. Now, this might seem a bit steep, but we've done comparison to other options. I won't go into um, the competitors' names, but from the people we've seen, there are people who teach um, Power BI and Excel. They will charge you about 2,000 for each option. That's just Power BI and Excel. Then there are some that charge you 2,500 for just Power BI and Excel without Python. And if you want to take Python, that's a separate program where they're going to charge you about 3,500. So for you to get all these three, the price of 3,000 is not available anywhere else. Fortunately or unfortunately. So that's why the price at this rate. But again, this is the schedule. We are amenable to. We try to make it end of the month because you understand that obviously end of the month is where most people are likely to get paid, and then we can make allowances for that. If there are also some unique situations that you may have, so you want to make a special day of payment, we can talk about that as well. So we have someone called Anna reach out to you. She's administrator, so she'll be dealing with you on things like maybe payments, assignments, any other issues you may have in terms of like maybe um, class schedules or basic administrative stuff. She'll be dealing with you on that. So you should be hearing from her soon, probably after today, on issues relation to payments, relations to slides, course material, video recordings, and those things. Anything in relation to all those things, you can contact her. Yes, and she will deal with you on that. So this one too will be made available to you if you, for some reason, want to schedule it.
Please can all the information be put on the WhatsApp page, the administrator, the payments,
Yes. So
where we pay for it.
latest by tomorrow, all that stuff will put on.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll start. Um, oh yeah, I have to talk to Faith on that. So by latest by Friday, we'll know the schedule on the decision on the Friday, Wednesday and Fridays or Fridays and Sundays. I'll be decided latest by Friday. And then we'll kick off officially next week and continue from there. So as I was saying to Mr. Joshua Adam before we started, there are some links on the platform for software you're supposed to download. Please make sure you download them ahead of when we start next week. One is Anaconda, the Anaconda software. The other is Power BI. We'll start with Python first because Python takes is probably the most challenging of all of them. We'll see as we start. But we'll go from most difficult to the easiest. So that by the time you're finishing, and that's where you feel a bit you end on a soft landing. You won't be like you start easy and then you end difficult. You want to when you're most motivated, start with the difficult stuff first, and then when you breaking that down, can end on a softer note. So I know it was challenging. We all had busy schedules and stuff we are dealing with. Some of you are still in transit to the house, but really appreciate you taking your time to join us for this brief overview of what we'll be doing going forward. I'll pause now for any comments, feedback, questions, concerns before we just close this meeting. Okay. I guess silence means for now no questions. I'm sure the questions will definitely come as all these materials are made available. You get the time to stay. No problem. We'll also be available to answer your questions then too. So thank you again. Hold on, let me hold on and check the chats just to make sure that there are no questions here before we wrap up. No, there are no questions over. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll be hearing from us. Thank you.